23:14 p.m. The Strait of Hormuz. 12 miles off the Iranian coast, the hostile forces of Iran are busy making the absolute worst military gamble of their miserable existence. In the pitch-black waters of this 21-mile choke point, they genuinely thought they could hold the global economy hostage. Right now, the burning remains of a multi-million-dollar Iranian Jamaran-class frigate are sinking to the bottom of the ocean, reduced to a bubbling slick of twisted steel in less time than it takes to watch a late-night commercial break. The arrogant Iranian high command promised their leaders a glorious blockade to humiliate the West. But if you think a pathetic fleet of glorified speedboats and cheap drones can actually corner the unmatched might of the United States Navy, then you are about to witness the most violently expensive reality check in modern naval warfare. Stay focused, because the physics of destruction you are about to see explains exactly why poking the eagle always ends in melting Iranian steel. Deep inside a fortified concrete bunker beneath the Zagros Mountains, Iranian generals are practically popping cheap champagne. Their radar screens show a massive, coordinated red wave of 76 Shahed 136 suicide drones, Qods-class mini-subs, and dozens of Boghammar speedboats swarming toward the American carrier strike group. In their arrogant minds, this asymmetrical warfare is a brilliant masterpiece of military strategy. The financial math seems completely in their favor. They are deploying a massive swarm of disposable, low-tech trash, betting heavily that the United States Navy will panic and deplete its multi-million-dollar inventory of SM-2 and AMRAAM interceptor missiles just to stay afloat. The Iranian commanders are already high-fiving in the control room, absolutely convinced their $20,000 flying mopeds are about to overwhelm the most advanced combat network on the planet and drown 5,700 American sailors in the dark waters of Hormuz. But folks, here is the lethal error that arrogant planners always make when they start believing their own fabricated propaganda. Time to impact. 4 minutes. Inside the neon-lit Combat Information Center of the American carrier, the screens are chillingly quiet, not because the Navy is blind, but because they operate on a technological level Iran cannot fathom. The Iranian swarm thinks they are executing an undetected pincer movement under the cover of darkness, completely oblivious to the all-seeing E-2D Advanced Hawkeye orbiting high above. This airborne supercomputer has already mapped every single miserable Iranian drone and mini-sub, processing the chaotic battlefield into a sterile digital grid of doomed targets. Instead of blasting active radar waves that would alert the scavengers, the Hawkeye silently feeds targeting telemetry through a secure data link straight into the cockpits of the ultimate apex predators. If you ask why the American carrier hasn't fired a single shot yet, I will tell you a terrifying military secret that is about to ruin Iran's night. 2 F-35. Stealth fighters are diving through the clouds, invisible to Iranian sensors, armed to the teeth, and waiting for the exact millisecond to unleash a flawless airborne slaughter. 2:15 a.m. The Persian Gulf boils with tension as 76 Iranian Shahed 136 drones screech through the humid night air like a plague of mechanical locusts. Down in the dimly lit Combat Information Center of the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS McFall, the tactical radar screens bleed red with incoming bogeys. Here's the brutal tactical dilemma that the arrogant Iranian commanders thought would permanently break the back of the United States Navy. The sheer math of this coordinated ambush is designed to be an absolute financial nightmare. Each of those flying Iranian lawnmowers costs a pathetic $20,000, crudely constructed from smuggled civilian engine parts and sheer desperation. To swat them out of the sky using standard naval doctrine, the American fleet would theoretically have to launch a massive volley of RIM 162 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, rapidly draining their vertical launch cells with interceptors that cost $2 million apiece. If you were the commander of this billion-dollar warship, staring at a radar screen filled with cheap suicide drones, what would your next move be? Would you panic and empty your high-end magazines to swat buzzing mosquitoes, leaving your carrier strike group completely vulnerable to the real anti-ship ballistic missiles hiding in the Iranian mountains? Or would you hold your fire and risk a direct hit? This is exactly the economic trap the enemies of America have been aggressively dreaming about for decades. Ordinary viewers might look at this chaotic swarm and see an overwhelming, terrifying threat rapidly closing in on the American sailors. But those of you with a deep understanding of modern naval warfare know that the Pentagon does not play by a fair set of rules. The United States military did not spend trillions of dollars on cutting-edge defense research just to get outsmarted by a glorified, slow-moving RC airplane loaded with explosives. While the Iranian forces are probably already celebrating their genius cost-exchange ratio in their bunkers, convinced they have forced the U.S. Navy into an impossible corner, they are completely unaware that American defense engineers have already solved this mathematical puzzle. Stay with me, because the genius detail of how the American forces violently flipped this financial equation upside down is about to turn this entire Iranian drone fleet into an embarrassing shower of shattered fiberglass. Meanwhile, barely skimming the choppy surface of the Persian Gulf, the crews of the Iranian Boghammar speedboats are already acting like they just conquered the world. These glorified fiberglass dinghies, armed with nothing more than bolted-on heavy machine guns and a delusional sense of superiority, are aggressively throttling toward the American strike group. Inside the humid, poorly ventilated command bunkers back on the mainland, Iranian drone operators are literally high-fiving each other, their faces illuminated by the glowing green radar screens showing their Shahed swarm rapidly closing the distance. They are so drunk on their own cheap propaganda that some of the speedboat commanders are actually pulling out their smartphones, eagerly recording what they believe will be the ultimate humiliation of the United States Navy for their state-run television broadcasts. They look at the deafening silence from the American destroyers and foolishly mistake advanced tactical discipline for sheer panic. In their arrogant minds, the Americans are completely paralyzed, absolutely terrified of wasting their million-dollar interceptor missiles, and entirely helpless against the overwhelming volume of the incoming explosive swarm. The Iranian commanders genuinely believe they have mathematically checkmated the greatest maritime fighting force in human history using smuggled civilian technology and brute numbers. They are so incredibly confident in their low-cost, asymmetric warfare strategy that they are practically planning the victory parade in Tehran, already dreaming of the shiny medals they will pin to their chests. But wait, there is one more layer to this spectacular tactical failure that these overconfident sailors are completely ignoring. While the Iranian speedboat crews are busy taking celebratory selfies and screaming victory chants into the salty night air, they have absolutely no idea that the silent darkness directly above them is heavily occupied by the ultimate apex predators. The American silence isn't fear. It is the cold, calculated patience of an apex executioner meticulously lining up a flawless, multi-million-dollar decapitation strike. Stay tuned, because the brutal physics of destruction in the next 60 seconds is about to violently delete this entire pathetic Iranian armada from the tactical map and turn their arrogant smiles into pure ash. 4:30 a.m. The boiling surface of the Strait of Hormuz is about to become a sprawling graveyard for Iranian ambitions as the second wave of suicide drones violently breaches the heavy cloud cover. The arrogant commanders in Tehran thought they had synchronized this follow-up strike to completely exhaust the American vertical launch cells, eagerly expecting the mighty USS McFall to run dry on expensive interceptors. But here is the lethal catch that the Iranian strategic planners missed in their pathetic calculations. The United States Navy does not need to fire a single $2 million missile to swat down a glorified flying lawnmower. Instead of taking the bait, the incredibly sophisticated Aegis combat system seamlessly activates a brutally efficient protocol that mathematically embarrasses the enemy. High above the chaotic swarm, those two invisible F-35 Lightning II fighters are already executing a flawless decapitation sequence without ever turning on their active radar. Using the AN/AAQ-40 electro-optical targeting system, the American pilots passively track the thermal signatures of the Iranian drones in absolute silence. If you ask why the night sky suddenly erupts, I will tell you an unbelievable military secret about the advanced precision kill weapon system. The The Pentagon brilliantly attached tiny laser seekers onto standard Hydra rockets, instantly transforming cheap, dumb munitions into highly lethal, precision-guided swarm killers for roughly $30,000 a pop. But wait, the financial humiliation of the Iranian military does not stop there. To optimize the cost-exchange ratio to the absolute maximum, the Aegis network simultaneously unleashes an entirely new apex predator onto the battlefield, Project Meteor. This experimental high-powered microwave weapon does not shoot explosive warheads. It fires an invisible beam of electromagnetic energy directly into the incoming swarm. For the laughable cost of about $5 worth of electricity, cheaper than a morning Frappuccino at Starbucks, the intense microwave radiation instantly cooks the primitive circuit boards of the Shahed drones mid-flight. The Iranian screens suddenly freeze, their data links violently sever, and their entire technological pride is reduced to blind, smoking bricks plummeting helplessly into the unforgiving ocean. Stay focused, because the undisputed slaughter of this Iranian fleet is just getting started. The slaughter begins with the horrific grace of a high-tech execution. As the invisible electromagnetic waves from Project Meteor fry their primitive circuits, the once terrifying swarm of Shahed drones violently nosedives into the Persian Gulf, splashing harmlessly like dead metallic birds. But the American fleet is not just playing defense. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS McFall fiercely rips through the black waves, looking like a steel leviathan craving destruction. It does not hide. The mighty SPY-1 radar system instantly locks onto the arrogant Iranian Jamaran-class frigate, the so-called pride of their naval forces. Don't blink, unless you want to miss the exact moment physics rewrites history. The USS McFall's Mk-45 5-inch main gun roars to life, unleashing a merciless thunderstorm of heavy steel projectiles that effortlessly shred the enemy vessel. The armor-piercing rounds tear through the Iranian hull, igniting secondary explosions that vaporize the ship's magazines and turn the multi-million-dollar frigate into a spectacular fireball of twisted scrap metal. Down in the water, the surviving Boghammar speedboats frantically try to pull a U-turn, their engines screaming in pure panic as the Iranian sailors finally realize they brought fiberglass toys to a titanium gunfight. But it is far too late. The APKWS rockets rain down from the heavens, transforming those cheap dinghies into blazing coffins. Up in the sky, the desperate Iranian generals scrambled two MiG, two 9 Fulcrum fighters in a pathetic last stand. Ordinary viewers might see a dogfight brewing, but the tactical minds watching this know those pilots just signed their own death warrants. A hidden squadron of F-15E Strike Eagles, hauling massive payloads of GBU-31 JDAM bombs, is already waiting in the cold stratosphere. Before the Iranian radar can even chirp a frantic beep, the MiGs are violently blown out of the sky, disintegrating into a pathetic shower of burning debris. As the black smoke settles over the glowing wreckage of the Iranian armada, the terrifying reality of American technological supremacy becomes crystal clear. Every single hostile target has been ruthlessly vaporized, mathematically erased from the tactical network without leaving a scratch on the American fleet. The massive commercial oil tankers, the very economic lifeline the arrogant Iranian commanders thought they could hold hostage, are steaming safely through the Strait of Hormuz untouched. Down in the pristine magazines of the American destroyers, the multi-million-dollar interceptor missiles sit cold and fully stocked in their vertical launch tubes. The United States military just flawlessly dismantled a massive ambush without bankrupting their advanced inventory. The asymmetric warfare strategy Tehran spent decades planning has been totally humiliated by cheap rockets and a $5 electricity bill. But folks, here is the lethal twist that turns this victory into a strategic nightmare for Iran. The true masterclass of this operation was the invisible intelligence heist that happened while the Iranian forces were distracted by their own fireworks. While the arrogant Iranian commanders were celebrating their drone swarm, the American EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft were silently sweeping the electromagnetic spectrum. They absorbed every encrypted transmission, tracked every telemetry ping, and pinpointed the exact GPS coordinates of every hidden coastal bunker. The United States Navy didn't just blind the Iranian offensive. They stole the master keys to their entire coastal defense network. Now, as the panicked Iranian generals desperately try to re-establish contact with a fleet that no longer exists, an Ohio-class submarine is silently rising from the crushing depths, flooding its tubes with Tomahawk cruise missiles aimed directly at those newly discovered bunkers. The hunting season has officially begun. So let me ask you, if you were the commander tomorrow morning, would you rather trust the cheap swarm tactics of the Iranian military or the calculated technological supremacy of the United States? Drop your strategic move in the comments below.